Rabbi, I'm a bad Jew. Rabbi, I'm a bad Jew. First time I heard someone say that, I'm a bad Jew, was maybe 2 weeks after I started rabbinical school. I was sitting at a lunch counter in Los Angeles, and I was chatting with the guy next to me, and he said, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm in seminary up at University of Judaism studying to become a rabbi. And he sheepishly looked down at his half-eaten BLT, and he said, sorry, Rabbi, I'm a bad Jew. Now, I don't think eating a BLT necessarily makes you a bad Jew. Mind you, I'm not advocating it, especially not tonight. Don't go home and have a BLT. And honestly, I would prefer if you chose not to, but probably not why you think. And I'm going to come back to that later. So what's a bad Jew? Well, first of all, what's a Jew in general? Got to ask that question first. According to halakha, ritual law, you're a Jew if you were born to a Jewish mother or if you converted with a Beit Din, a rabbinic court, and a mikveh. Now that's the halakhic definition, but there's a much better definition than I heard from Dr. Einat Wilf, and it goes like this. To be a Jew, you must believe in one God or fewer. And if you fall into that or fewer category, does that make you a bad Jew? Not necessarily. I hear this a lot. I do. I'm a bad Jew. I don't come to synagogue much. I don't know Hebrew. God, I really like lobster. I like candles sometimes, but apart from that, I don't really follow the laws of Shabbat. I have a tattoo. My mother told me I couldn't be buried in a Jewish cemetery because of it. I'm a bad Jew. Now, do any of these things necessarily make one a bad Jew? The truth is, we can all do better with the mitzvot. None of us are perfect. I guess the opposite question, though, is, does following the mitzvot, does following Torah law necessarily make one a good Jew? The 13th century Spanish commentator Ramban, as opposed to Rambam, Ramban has something to say about this. The Torah lists many laws regarding modesty, eating, the forbidden and the permitted, proper relations, and so on. Despite this, there can be a person of cravings, lust, drunkenness, or gluttony who does according to his own will, as long as that specific act is not expressly forbidden in the Torah, and thus he becomes naval birshut Torah, a scoundrel with the permission of Torah. A scoundrel with the permission of Torah. In other words, you can see a Jew who totally looks the part. Black coat, hat, tzitzit, big beard, the whole works. Ah, that's the real Jew. That guy over there. This person is meticulously kosher, studies Talmud, is fluent in Hebrew, puts on tefillin every day, keeps Shabbat, keeps the holidays. And despite all of that, Ramban says this person could still be rotten to the core. Naval birshut haTorah, a scoundrel with the permission of Torah. Why? Because someone may be following the letter of the law, but ignoring the spirit behind it. And this person would be missing the point of the mitzvot. And I would say the point of religion itself, any religious practice, I don't care what. Religious observance is not the end. It's the beginning. It's a means of conditioning ourselves to be better people and to walk more closely with God. Are there people who don't follow the mitzvot so closely, who are kind, decent, generous with their time and their money, and just good people? Yeah, of course. I know a lot. And I would say, if you're here now in this room, or tuning in, you're good Jews. I can say that. Our father Jacob wrestled with the divine, survived, and was given his new name Yisrael. It means the one who wrestles with God. And we're the children of Israel. God wrestlers. God wrestlers. If you question your relationship with God, or even struggle with whether or not you believe, you're a good Jew. And the Hebrew word for Jews is Yehudim. Yehudim comes from the same root as Todah, Lahodot, to be thankful. So Yehudim literally means thankful ones, grateful ones. If you go through life looking for blessings, appreciating what you have, taking moments to be in awe of the very wonder of creation, you're a good Jew. You're a good Jew if you identify with the Jewish people. You're a good Jew if you try to be a better person. And I'm not saying you can't be critical of her policies, but you're a good Jew if you love Israel. If you like matzo ball soup, a bagel with a schmear, and are proud of your Jewish heritage, you are a good Jew. You're a good Jew if you give tzedakah, charity. You're a good Jew if you care about other people, your community, and the world. But could you be better? Of course. We all can. And that's why we're here. Earlier I said I would be happier if you did try to follow the mitzvot a little more closely. Be it kashrut, be it Sabbath observance, or not eating that BLT. And I said it wasn't because, probably wasn't why you thought. Why do you suppose we have the mitzvot in the first place? Now, many just make common sense, and any reasonable people should be able to come up with similar ones all on their own, right? Don't murder. Kind of a given. Don't steal, right? Don't take something that belongs to somebody else. Don't lie. Don't act as a false witness. But the Torah also has a bunch of religious rules that seem arbitrary and on the surface appear to have very, very little to do with being good people. Eat this, but not that. Don't mix wool and linen in the same fabric. Still trying to figure that one out, right? God, what's that one all about? All the laws of Shabbat. And as we read in the second paragraph of the Shema, put fringes on the four corners of your garment. Now, but for that one, the Torah gives a reason. It gives a reason for tzitzit. It says, "Ulitem oto uzchatem et kol mitzvot Adonai," that you see them and recall all of God's mitzvot and do them, to be holy to God. This applies to all ritualistic acts, I think. Doing the little things reminds us of the broader ideas, like being kind to the stranger, like not standing idly by the blood of another, taking up the cause of the widow and the orphan, love your neighbor, love God. But wait a minute, you said I didn't have to, right, Rabbi? I'm not sure I even believe in God, so what about that last one? Fine, put the cart before the horse, is what I say. Take on a mitzvah or two and see. Maybe you'll start to feel something that you didn't quite expect. Try lighting candles on Friday night. It's not a whole lot to ask. And try making a little bit of an extra nice meal on Friday night, on Shabbat. See if it affects you. See if it makes the day feel a little more holy. Does it help draw godliness into your home? And if you like that, add to it. Maybe try not spending money on Shabbat. Does that do something for you? You don't eat kosher? That's okay. Try eating less meat than you normally would. Apart from saving money and treading a little bit more lightly on the earth and taking up fewer resources, it might also make you feel a bit more mindful about your eating choices. And here's a big one. if you come to synagogue once or twice a year for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, this year commit to picking just one random Shabbat and come and learn and pray with us. I promise you'll be glad you did. If nothing else, it's a heck of a lot shorter, and we have a nosh afterwards. Rabbi, I'm a bad Jew. If that thought even enters your head, then you are definitely not a bad Jew. Bad people don't think they're bad. Only good people do. But today is about trying to be more. Yeah, we beat our chests about all the mitzvot that we missed. Looking ahead, don't try to take them all on. Who can do 613? I can't. But this year, try to take on a few, just a few. The rabbis say mitzvah goreret mitzvah. Literally, a mitzvah drags along another mitzvah, and another, and another, and another. And the mitzvot are not meant to be an end, but a means to a bigger picture, to what really, really matters. And that's becoming more caring, sensitive, and kinder people. They're a scaffolding for building a life of meaning, purpose, and blessing. Do you know why we cover our challahs before our Shabbat dinner? What was that? No bugs, yeah. There's no flies in San Diego, right? So it shouldn't be embarrassed, right? Really silly thing. Shouldn't be embarrassed, right? Normally we would say a bracha first, a blessing, over bread. That would be first, because that's the main, or the bread of life. If we say the blessing over the bread, that covers the entire meal. We don't say any other blessings. But on Shabbat, we first have to sanctify the day, and we do that by making kiddush over wine. And you can't drink wine without saying a blessing. So, as Seth said, may sound silly, but one interpretation is so we don't offend or embarrass the bread, that it should see this other blessing, and it's not going first, we cover it so it shouldn't be embarrassed. I never said Jews were always rational. Now, there's a Hasidic tale of a great rabbi who came to the home of a former student for Shabbat. The man escorted the rabbi home from synagogue, but when he opened the door, he was shocked and embarrassed. His wife, exhausted from a week of work and responsibility, was fast asleep in a chair. The Shabbos table was only half set, the dishes placed in a pile next to the Kiddush cup and wine, and nebuch, in front of the head seat were 2 loaves of challah, uncovered. The man was embarrassed and called out to his wife in a not so nice manner, "Please, let us prepare the table in its entirety," he said. Turning to his mentor, he exclaimed, "I'm sure that leaving the bread uncovered was an oversight, because everyone knows that we must cover the challah before Kiddush." Well, the rabbi rebuked the man for his self-righteous behavior, saying, "Over the years, I have heard many problems that people faced. Students, couples, and adults from all walks of life have entered my study to discuss their personal situations with me. Not once did a challah ever come to see me sad and dejected because it was uncovered during Kiddush." Do you know why? Because we're not concerned with the challah. We're concerned with empathy. We worry about the challah to teach us to worry about people. I broke this tonight in this service, and I am ashamed of it, and I'm going to apologize. In the very, very beginning, when the various people were holding the Sifrei Torah, for Kol Nidre. Didn't go exactly as I had pictured it, imagined it, and I think I might have made a face. And going through all of this is to teach us that people matter more than exacting religious punctiliousness, and that we do religious rituals to keep us mindful. Mitzvot are about mindfulness, being careful about what we put in our mouths, for example, is supposed to teach us something far more important, to be careful about what comes out of them. Fasting today is to remind us that while we may feel hungry, thank God we're not starving, and we ought to be more sensitive to the fact that others truly are. And not just halfway across the world, by the way, right here in town. And what are we going to do about that? None of us are bad Jews. But this year, maybe we can commit to taking on another mitzvah or two and seeing if they don't make us just a little bit better. Good Yontif, Gemar Chatima Tova.